always love that music. Ciao, Bianconeri fans, all of you there. This is the Bianconeri Bros coming to you for episode 4. Feels like it's been a while, but I think that was just because we were pushing out so much content there to start. But as always, I'm your host, John Borg, along with your other host,
co-host, Dominic Gulo.
Well, Dom, a lot's happened since our last pod, especially a nice little road trip that both you and I partook in now a week ago. We're recording here on Friday, June, what is today, 27th?
27th.
So last weekend we did the road trip down from Toronto to Philly, catch our Juve, play We Dad, not Why Dad, We Dad. And it was a great experience. Maybe you can talk about how'd you enjoy it, buddy?
To our U.S. listeners, I don't know if there's U.S. listeners right now. There's nothing in Philadelphia. Beautiful stadium, beautiful sports complex. I love that. Just like the diamonds there, their basketball rink is there. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm not going to say the arena names because I don't know them. But everything is there,
all
and
commercialized
it's beautiful.
now anyway. It's all commercialized now anyway, so it's, I don't know, it's probably like Comcast, whatever stadium.
Yeah, X Infinity.
Yeah,
the X Infinity bar was beautiful.
Yeah, that was nice.
But no, it was where we stayed. It was literally 10-15 minute walk, I would say. Yeah. It was a beautiful area. I think the drive was fine. We kept ourselves entertained, threw some podcasts on, not our own, because that would be, very weird.
I don't know. We kind of did like our own little pods, man. We had a detour trying to go over our list, ranking our favorite Batman films from
With my ranking, I made you miss the turn there.
That's how upset I got about your decision to rank Batman Returns as low as you did.
I stand by it. Danny DeVito,
worst you did, and we almost ended the podcast there. Okay, there was almost no more Bianconeri Bros there.
Friendship over.
That's for the Batman podcast. But yeah, no, I'll echo the same sentiment. Didn't seem like much to do in Philly. Granted, we were only there for really one day. But yeah, I think I had commented to you a few times just liking that complex area. I think it was nice how it was set up, so open with the parking and having all the stadiums together. Yeah. Thought a really good concept. So
much room for tailgating too. Like it was wonderful. And just the way, just how traffic kind of flowed out of there, just getting in and out was super easy. Unlike Toronto.
Yes, 100%. And We Dad supporters, shout them out too, because they really showed out.
They were lots of fun, man. We were surrounded by them.
They shot out some flares there, and they shot out some flares there after they scored their goal. Oh my god, the smoke just cleared the entire stadium. But they were all super nice. Most of them talking about, hey, it's friendly because although we're We Dad supporters, really they're not one of the top leagues. So most of us are either Juve or AC Milan fans anyway. So we're all friends here today, he said. So, but yeah, we talked to a lot of them. They were loud and they were proud, but they were also like really easy to get along with and sociable. So that was nice. And then talking to some of the Juve fans, talking to the Juve fans, we even got to meet. Pretty good podcaster and social media content creator for Juventus as well, the AJC. Really great
Alberto,
guy.
Super nice.
Alberto was super nice guy. Took the time to talk to us. It was really great getting to know him and meeting him there. So that was cool as well. So that's the great thing of going to some of these events. And if anybody here is ever afraid, like drives are so easy, try to make it out for it. If anything is local or at least close to where you are, like I encourage you to go because the community is really great, aside from maybe a few rotten apples. But for the most part, everyone's here. Everyone, everyone loves their club. So they're always willing to talk about it, and they're always open to finding more people that love the club the same way. It's not cliquey.
Yep. Yeah. I have to agree.
But that'll take us into, as we talked about, we've done our preview shows of the Club World Cup. We've talked about some of the start to the Club World Cup. Now we're through the group stage. So the round of 16 is set. I'll quickly show the round of 16 here as it is set. And as you can see here, this is how it all shakes out. Obviously, I think there's one side a little tougher than the other. When you have PSG, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Real Madrid, Juventus, I would say the right side of the bracket there, it's harder. But I think the pathways to both of our clubs and most of our picks were actually pretty good. So Man City top in their group, PSG top in theirs. I think our picks are so far on track.
Yeah. I would say, especially the Juve and Madrid one, I think we kind of expected that to happen. For me, the toss up I would say is Benfica and Chelsea. But yeah, I have to agree. The one side is tougher than the other, and I guess we'll have to see. I mean, both of our picks are still in play, so.
Yeah, and I think most of our picks to this point have been pretty correct, aside from a few. Here or there. So.
Well, you had Palmeiras in there. I did not, so that's a big boo boo on my end.
But I think I also had Porto going in, so I think you get me on the Porto one because they didn't do very well either. So
yeah, because
not Porto, Boca Juniors. That was it because my friend, he's a big Boca fan. I went too far in on it with him, and fortunately for him, he even had to see them tie a semi-professional team and have them score on them too. So I love you, buddy, but that was a rough trip for you. Although the Boca fans really showed out too. Social media was like going nuts with them in Miami, nightclubs. They were taking over everywhere. Theme parks. They were like, it was really good showing from teams like Boca. And there's a scary situation. One Boca fan was in the River Plate supporter section in one of the games. He's being escorted out of there. That was a video that looked a little sketchy, but yeah. Some of those rivalries can get a little bad, but we're here to talk about Juve, so let's talk to the path of how they got there, and really that all begins with us talking about the matches. So Juve started the tournament with a 5-0 win against Aline. I don't know why I always struggle with that. Thankfully,
it's a tricky name. Anymore. You did a better job than I would. So
Juve also followed that up with the game we were at, winning 4-1 against Wydad. And then they finish it off after having those two really impressive wins. They finish it off with a 5-2 defeat to Man City. I think the way we should break this down, because I think matches 1 and 2 were very similar, had similar starting lineups. So I think maybe we break it down with those two kind of generically, and then I think we go into the sore thumb that is the Manchester City game.
Yeah.
So initially, what were your thoughts on the two games? I thought, from my own perspective, I was really excited about the formation used, especially up front. Maybe we gave a little bit up defensively, but I liked what we were seeing from Conceição. I liked seeing the link up between Yildiz. I mean, he scored a banger there. Like,
beautiful.
Koulibaly was playing great. It looked like everything was clicking in those first two games. Granted, the opponent was not the strongest, and there were weak moments. I mean, they scored a goal, but it was called offside, and Wydad scored a goal against us. Again, just poor defending, and I think that's a product
left open, and it both very similar. Both goals were. I mean, the first one was offside. I did remember saying to you at the game we were at against Wydad that this team is fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And if it's anything like this in season in their own league, I mean, mind you, it won't be like this against like a Napoli or an Inter Milan, but against the lower, weaker sides, it's going to be a fun season, depending on where they finish as well, obviously. But the attack with Yildiz and Conceição and Koulibaly, that's our best attack since what? I mean, it's apples and oranges right now, but I guess Dybala, Ronaldo, and Mandzukic. I mean, but those are like premier top players. But this is the best scoring that we've had in a while. Again, it is against weaker sides. But it is nice to see that we are able to score goals, because I remember there was a time where we could not score, and it was pretty recent with Allegri and Motta So it's refreshing to see. I do like our midfield with Kefren Turan there. Cambiasso, Alberto Costa has impressed me a lot. Chico Conceição, Yildiz, the whole team has impressed me so far. The defense, I'm a bit concerned about. I wouldn't have Kelly in there, but we'll get into that more as well.
Well, and I think a lot of those points are correct. And again, this is the lineup for the first two games. It was identical. Koulibaly, Yildiz, Conceição, Cambiasso, Thuram, McKinney, Costa, Kelly, Savona, Kalulu, and Di Gregorio. I thought the same thing. I like the emphasis on attack. I love Thuram's game in both of them as well. Really,
he's so sharp, man. Like the ball at his feet, you can't get it off him. You have to foul him.
Yeah, and so I was impressed. And it was okay. It's 2 games, but we've seen how other big clubs, have fared against some of the weaker clubs as well. Hasn't just been straight smashing through these teams. So this is a difficult tournament. We've talked about that before, where it's situated, being kind of the start of the new season, but right at the end of the old season. So it has this weird feel to it where it's like it's the end of last season, but it's also the beginning of that. It's in a weird place. So I think to still get these results was impressive. What my biggest, I guess, takeaway on the negative is that we truly didn't get a chance to see if this was sustainable, because this is not the lineup that they went with against Man City. And that's why
it wasn't.
You have to really look at these 2 games, 5-0, 4-1, very impressive, attacking similarly. Again, some weak moments in defense, but you could almost argue, and we had this conversation in person, Bremner's coming back, Gatti maybe is it preferable to Kelly? Who do they bring in? There's money coming in from this tournament to maybe bring in another piece. There's a way to fix that. But what we were excited about was the attacking, and we almost made the comment, this is what we wanted Mota ball to be, right?
Right, exactly.
But then we don't see that. And that will lead us into basically the Man City game, which had a whole different lineup. And I'll pull that up here. But I guess, how did you feel about the Man City game? It was one that was more difficult to watch because of work. So, and it was at 3:00. So our time here. So, I had to watch it afterwards, but totally different lineup. We go from
Koulibaly, the defense stayed the same.
The defense stayed the same, which was horrendous in this game. And it was
Kalulu's worst game, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that own goal was really brutal. But you go from all of that, like you kept McKennie in, which is whatever. But
he hasn't had the best tournament, has he?
Koulibaly, Conceição, and Yildiz to Vlahovic, Gonzalez, and Koopmeiners.
And then you put Costa in, who hasn't really played. Kostic. Lucatelli, who's kind of coming back from an injury. It kind of didn't make sense. And it's really, I don't know if it's Tudor wanting to rest everyone for the knockout stages, but also you got to look at the fact that first place is up for grabs, and we could have had a better matchup. Like it wouldn't be a Real Madrid; it would be Al Hilal. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, but it kind of frustrates me because it kind of undoes that goodwill and that optimism that we have or had with the first 2 games, where it's like, wow, this is really exciting. These guys look really good. And it kind of upset me to see some of this. And I don't know if Gatti's injured or he just prefers Kelly over Gatti, which would be very shocking to me. I know that Tudor did come out and say,
and Tudor did have some really big comments, and a lot of that was focused around the idea that, and we'll get Dom back, lost them here for a second. Might have been an outage with some thunderstorms going on here. My biggest problem, and it's been my biggest problem from the beginning, has been, and we got Dom back here. So
sorry, my power cut out. Briefly there, the rain isn't helping. Sorry about that.
No. It's all good. So you were talking about Tudor and his comments, basically in relation to Gatti. So I'll let you kind of finish up there before I go into the point.
I don't know. I don't know if, like I said, if Gatti is coming back from an injury, but he seems like he's being subbed on in late minutes, which just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
I don't like Kelly. I don't think anyone likes Kelly. He's just not cut out for this league. I don't know what we see in him. I don't know what they see in him.
Yeah. Not us.
I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what they see in him.
Yeah.
It's just quite concerning as well of what our transfer market is going to look like, as well as seeing what kind of players we're connected to. We discussed this so many times in previous podcasts, but he got the lineup wrong, totally wrong. And
here's my problem with it. And we'll go into his quotes after the game, which I think infuriated me a bit more. But
both of us.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it first. Coming into this tournament, they were saying all the right things. Juve doesn't come to tournaments to lose. Juve's Juve. We come to win everything, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. All that. And it shows to be lip service because you're starting to play well. You have a chance to get onto the easier side of the bracket and avoid a first-round matchup with Real Madrid, a team that you know wants this. Because they've won this before and you know they take every tournament seriously. But again, we talked about it on a previous pod. Trent Alexander-Arnold is brought in for $10 million basically just to play this tournament. They could have waited and got him for free after the tournament. No, they paid $10 million to bring him in, and he's been playing pretty well if you've been watching that one. But so they're raring to go. They're ready to go. And it's not necessarily about avoiding them, but I think in any situation, you want to win all your matches so that you have that easier path. You want to be first place. You want to knock that off as an achievement. And you want to test yourself against Manchester City. So what are you saying? I don't want to test myself in Man City, but I'll maybe go back to that lineup for Real Madrid. What's the difference?
Yeah, I have to agree. And I don't know who posted on X. I think the account is their name is called Don Lippy, which I think is great. But at 2-1, they had 5 at the back, 4 midfielders and 1 attacker. At 2-1, what are we doing sitting back like this? We're just we're not good enough to sit back and soak up the pressure. The only way this team can play right now, and we saw it the first 2 games, is attack and press and run. And it's high risk football. You're leaving the back end open, but you've won the first 2 games like this. You scored multiple times like this. Your system right now is to outscore the other opponent at this point.
Yeah.
Right. So you're sitting back at 2-1 over a terrible own goal because Kalulu had no pressure on him at all there. Right. So does it come down to Tudor as well with his in-game tactics and something that we did discuss about saying that his in-game adjustments clearly aren't there and aren't that good, and this was a concern.
Yeah, but this even went before. This was in-game adjustments. This was pre-match adjustments. This was everything that you could possibly look at was on the board here, and so Tudor messed it up from beginning to end. And that starts with making the selections that you did. Having these selections of bringing in these players that basically were not starting. You have Vlahovic, who you want out the door, and you're starting him. But then you have other guys like Douglas Luiz, who you want to get rid of, Timothy Weah, Mbangula. They can't get a sniff of anything. I think Douglas Luiz played okay in the 45 minutes he played in the first match, again, against an inferior opponent. But, I mean, if you're going to give somebody a chance, I'd rather give it to him because I don't know if you're going to be able to sell him. And maybe it's a reality that we might have to live with him at least till the January transfer window. So it was just wrong from beginning to end. And for a team that talked about being Juve's all about winning, Juve's all about this and that, you had this inferior lineup and you basically threw in the towel against Man City. And even with Kalulu's goal, even if you wipe that off, and this match was lucky, I think, to be 5-2.
Yeah.
They were outplayed horribly in that first half, and basically Man City took the foot off the pedal a bit in the second half. and not much because they still were still scoring.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Diego Gregorio Tether. Sorry, I felt bad for him there. He was our best player. I stopped watching. I'm going to be honest with you. You're not going to like what I stopped watching after 3-1. I ended up going to the gym, and I'm not going to put up with this.
Yeah.
What's the point at this point?
And I don't blame you, but I might have to actually upset you a little more. But we're going to go into the comments basically from Tudor.
Yeah, so, you sent this to me when I was at the gym too.
Thanks. I wanted you to get that rage workout in. But we'll start with this one. So to be better, we need to be at full strength, fresh. I would argue, what are you talking about here? So
you played a whole rested lineup.
Exactly. And then what are you saying? These guys couldn't play this match? So then maybe against Wydad, you should have had maybe the inferior squad. What are we talking about there?
Yes.
Then again, when they want to, they spend 100 million. They have stronger players than us, and that needs to be said. So that's the first quote.
That's a shot to your own players, I would have to say. And it's also a cheap excuse because Mota beat these guys. Mota beat these guys last year with the same team. So,
and that goes into
throw that in there.
We're talking about the best team in the world with the best coach in the world. First of all, we're talking about the best team in the world. They were not this year. They lost every competition they were in England. They are one of the top teams. It's not, I'm not going to lose sight of that because they had one off year, but they didn't win the Premier League. They didn't win Champions League. They came away empty-handed. One of the reasons I chose them to win this tournament because I knew they didn't want to finish the season empty-handed. They were going in for this tournament. They brought in players to win this tournament. I'm not saying that they're maybe not the better team at this point, but again, you talk about being Juve, you talk about being this great team that should be at these levels, then I don't want to hear the excuses. There's no excuse for the performance. I'm not upset at the loss. I'm upset at the performance. I'm upset that we didn't start our key players. I'm upset that this match that was built up to be a big match turned out to be a friendly match in a way.
It was a friendly match.
And you basically lost any goodwill that you created out of the first two games. But I'll finish the quote here. So with the best coach in the world, okay, you could argue that. Pep's a great coach. I agree. This defeat doesn't take anything away from us. Well, it does. It does. Because you didn't put your strongest team forward. You showed that you were scared. So I think it does take away.
Yeah.
I have nothing.
They kind of threw in the white flag, right? With playing a different lineup from the first two games.
And I have nothing to criticize. Well, you should be criticizing yourself. It should be an inflection of what I did here or didn't do to get us going. And this is football. Sometimes it's harsh. No, it wasn't harsh. You started an inferior lineup against a very good Manchester City team, and you paid the price for it. And the price had first, I'll talk about in a second the price being also the injury to Savona.
John, before we get into that, though, where is the accountability from him? There's no accountability.
It's not there.
And I think that's what pisses me off the most. I texted you when you sent this to me. I said, where is the accountability? Like, you're making excuses about, they have 100 million. Like, what? Like, I don't like when coaches deflect blame. Blame yourself. Look inward. It's like, what did I do wrong here?
Yeah.
What did I do?
100%. And no, you're right. And this is a cop out. And again, we're not.
Yeah.
I don't want this to sound like we're over analyzing this match against Man City.
Right. I agree.
Third match of a group stage in a Club World Cup. But I think some of the fundamental principles that we saw here emulate what we've seen in past from management, coaches, etc. And that's where the concern lies with me. And when you're saying one thing and then doing another, because we've already talked about, okay, Camoli's coming in. We're coming in with a new management. But what is that management going to do? And we talked about them, us not having faith in them because we haven't had faith in previous regimes. Well, this isn't a good start when, again, you're saying one thing and then you're coming out after a defeat like this and saying a total opposite. So we're no longer Juve. We're no longer trying to win championships. We're no longer, trying to do all of this to, show that we are one of the top teams in the world, as we should be. Like, that's where it gets ridiculous. That's where I think it's the biggest mistake, is that, you're telling two different sides to the story, and that's the most upsetting part to me.
Yeah.
So we did kind of tease it. Well, so we'll leave it there. Again, now you've made life harder for yourself. So you have a chance to flip the narrative. You have a chance to show up against Real Madrid. How confident are you in it? I can see by your face.
Hold on. No. That's not what you think.
Oh.
It's going to be the most Juventus thing ever.
Okay. Tell it to us.
Either they play well and they lose, or they're going to win. It's the most Juventus thing ever. Get bombed against City and then come out and play the game of your life against Real. It's the most Juve thing ever. Come on.
Give me a prediction.
And Tudor's going to be a genius.
Give me a prediction on the spot.
It'll be one. Okay, so here's my two outcomes. Okay? Can I have two outcomes here?
I'll give you two.
There's different timelines, man. Come on.
I'll give you two.
Multi-universe here.
There you go.
All right. It's going to be 1-0 Real. Okay. And then Juve's going to press. And then it's going to be 2-0 right at the end because they're going to score. Or it's going to be a 1-0 Juve one.
1-0.
Yeah.
You have too much faith in our defense. I'm going to be honest. My thought
Kelly is going to have the game of his life, buddy. He's going to be Bonucci.
Right?
He's going to be Bonucci.
My thought was, if based on how we're seeing the tournament kind of go, and based on how we're seeing Juve in this tournament specifically, my thought was, and I thought the same thing as you, it'd be so Juve to actually come and have a good performance after a bad performance like this. But my thought was like a 3-2 extra time or in full time. So Real Madrid, I'm giving it to Real Madrid. I'm sticking with my prediction from our prediction from the World Cup preview. But that's I got 3-2. I think we're too leaky to not concede, and but I think we've got some players up front that can make something happen. So.
And my thing is too, if you're gonna go ahead and rest everyone, then you might as well put Rugani in that game too. Like, what are we doing? Like, now Savona's out. What are you gonna do now? What are you gonna do? Do you put in Gatti for the full 90? Can he play the full 90?
Well, that was it. So in the first half there, we saw Savona get injured. Looked like a really devastating one. You texted me right away and said ACL, and it looked. It did look like that. You saw the City players were pretty upset for him. Pep even giving him a hug there on the walk back. It looked bad. We did get some news on it. It's going to be 6 to 8 weeks, so roughly 2 months out. So it's a sprain in the ankle.
High
ankle sprain. So a lot better than initially feared, but you're still losing another key young player in the back end when you're already struggling back there. So definitely not ideal.
Yeah, and props to Tudor for actually playing Savona and trusting him at the center back, like not the right center back or the left, like the center back, and even trusting in Alberto Costa as well.
Yeah, I think Alberto Costa.
He's looked really good.
Yeah. And you wonder why, especially in how Mota was supposed to, I guess, play
and trust the youth.
I don't know why he didn't get more of a chance, but So now we look forward to the round of 16. It's going to be real interesting. Juve is obviously got their hands full with Juventus. Just pulling up when the next game is here, but what day?
It's Canada Day, actually.
Okay,
it's on July 1st. So
Canada Day. It's here in Canada. I am wearing this for a different reason.
3 p.m. game, I believe.
We'll get into that more. Against in a different part of the topic. But yes, you're right. 3 p.m. Tuesday, July 1st. So
that'll be good. We have that day off. We can watch it.
That's it. So it's it'll be a tough one, but hopefully hopefully they're up for it. But that'll get us into some more, I guess, transfer news, a bit of like housekeeping news as well. First one, we talked about it earlier, talking about the players that aren't playing that are here in the U.S. Or there in the U.S. But two that I guess stood out as having a bit of an issue here was Timothy Weah and Mbangula. So both of them posted Instagram posts, cryptic. They were like little parables there. And
Weah was very religious.
Yeah, and I think Mbangula's was too. I don't have them up here, so
I didn't see Mbangula's, to be honest with you. I only saw Weah's.
Clearly, they were both talking about getting through strength of tough times, whatever. Clearly not happy, and this comes on the heels of rumors that Nottingham Forest wanted both players. I think they went as far as putting a bid in. I believe both players rejected going there, so there was some smoke. Them not even being in the lineup for any of the games, really, that I think is indicator. And the kind of money that Juve is looking to spend in the offseason, it does make sense that these would be players that they're looking to offload to keep up with some of the financial fair play initiatives. But, Weah's agent also came out and had a quote here that I'll pull up. So here's Tim Weah's agent after he was left out of the Juve squad. Weah is a fantastic player, a fantastic teammate. To see people acting like this for money and because they are selfish disappointed me a lot. This is a shame. Anyway, until I'm here, nobody will push one of the players I advise to go on the right or the left like a marionette. I'm happy that Timo has a top education and a top personality to stay focused on the game. When you read that, I guess, what are your thoughts? Are you, how do you feel about how they're being treated?
Kind of unfortunate, isn't it? It's the nature of the business, really. And we know Juve needs to make sacrifices in the market. They got to make some sales. I mean, did Weah hit his full potential here? I don't think so. We kind of briefly discussed it at the game. Mbangula, I don't think we saw enough from him. But when we did see him, he did look good. I did like him, and it's just kind of unfortunate that we're off selling another youth prospect, right? It has to happen in a sense that they can't get rid of some of these contracts that they have. That's what it's looking like. It's like they can't get rid of Vlahovic. No one wants Kostic. It's going to get hard to move on from Douglas Luiz because you're probably going to lose in that sale from what you got from him. So they got to make some certain sacrifices here where teams want some of these younger guys. And it's unfortunate, but again, it's the nature of the business at the end of the day. And taking to Instagram, I think you just got to keep it professional at the same time as well.
I think so. And, I empathize with the nature of it as a football player. I can understand it can be tough. I can understand, hey, you want it to be part of this squad your father, idolized and played for. So it's a big, especially on the Weah side. And, I would hope that Juve is being in communication with them, not just blindsiding them with some of this or pushing them. I would hope there's communication like, hey, you're just not a part of this manager's vision, which is fine too. Like you can have that. It doesn't have to be like, I'm sorry, but you may not fit somebody's system. That happens.
I would love to see Mbangula up there with Yildiz and Koulibaly up there. I think that would be loads of fun.
But you talking about Koulibaly was going to be what I go to with my next point. We talked about that exciting little trident of Koulibaly, Yildiz, Conceição. Two of those three players may not be here for the start of next season.
But I think that's where these two sacrifices come from.
Which is exactly my point. And who would I rather have? It's those players.
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry you're offended. I'm sorry, whatever. And I hope it's nothing nefarious. I hope Juve's, again, keeping that dialogue and saying, hey, you're not in our plans. We'll try to come up with a good solution for you. But, you came in last year, new old management, old manager. You don't fit in here. I'm sorry. This is just, you're just not going to play. So let's try to figure out a solution. I hope it's a little nicer than that, like a little nice like that. But again, you're a professional footballer. You should know that this is kind of the game. And again, I understanding where they're coming from and feeling bad about how they feel, but I'm sorry. It's just I don't blame either side for feeling how they feel, I guess.
Yeah, for sure, right? Juve has to run it in the best interest of the team. And I understand these guys, right? They, we're all human. They all have families, and they got to uproot their life to a whole different country. So, yeah, I get it. So.
But and just the final thought on that too was just, I don't think that a club like Juve really takes well to outbursts as well. So I don't think that this also helps Weah or in Mbangula's case with the posts and with the agent coming out and saying what he did. So I would say tread carefully a little bit, or you might be biting off a little more than you can chew. But that's, I think, something to watch out for, and we'll see how it goes. Again, it looks like Nottingham Forest wanted both players. It looks like Juve was willing to make a deal work around 20 mil for both, but players did not want that. So we'll evaluate that, and we'll see kind of where this unfolds from there. But that goes into the next one, which is Jonathan David. So again, the reason I'm wearing what I'm wearing today, Jonathan David. I don't know if you can see that there, but that's mostly the reason I'm wearing this, and it's close to Canada Day, I guess you could say. But latest rumors this week were, it sounds like Jonathan David is telling his agent, I want Juve. It sounds like Juve's pushed off the Gyökeres deal. It sounds like Gyökeres wanted Arsenal, although Arsenal is getting closer to Sesko again, something we had talked about. So I'm wondering if maybe Gyökeres is, maybe kicking himself a little bit for going all in on Arsenal. But it seems like at that moment, Kamoli went, okay, David's our target. And he seems excited by the project. I heard there was talks about Saudi and other places coming in with big offers, but he wants Juve. There was a talk about the only issue maybe being commissions, his agent demanding some high commissions, but word is he's asked his entourage to kind of figure it out. And it sounds like it also sounds like they are getting closer to finding some middle ground there. So it looks like something that could be imminent. It's not done. And as we know, in football, things change quick. So until it's done, I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't call him a Juve player, but I would say it's getting really, really close at this point.
Yeah, I mean, my question is though, where does that leave our system? Is David going to be a bench guy? Is he going to come on for Koulibaly? What does that leave us with Vlahovic too, right? We still got to move Vlahovic. We still have Milik, who we haven't seen all tournament again. Apparently he's healthy. He's traveling with the team. He's working out. He's doing all these trainings, but he hasn't played a match since God knows when. I think the last time it was where he scored his brace against Atalanta there, or his hat trick, when him and Koopmeiners were trading goals back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, I think the writing's on the wall. Well, I say that, but then he goes ahead and starts against Real Madrid with Vlahovic, and he takes the penalty against. Sorry, what did I say? Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I'm looking ahead. I'm trying to forget Man City. Okay?
I hope you're not foretelling the future that he's starting against Real Madrid. John.
Well, I don't know, right? Like that's my thing. I don't know. And to be honest, he came in, and they even gave him the luxury of taking the penalty against Wydad, which Dom captured very nicely. That you can see on our socials. He captured that goal really nice on his iPhone. But
iPhone 16 that I've dropped like 10 times.
There you go. Because you've thrown it because they're starting Yildiz, Koopmeiners, and Nico Gonzalez. But so I guess my point is, I would think the writing's on the wall that Vlahovic needs to go, but I also think he's talking about just playing out the year. So I think there's some kind of understanding that his time's done, and therefore I just think that he's not really part of the equation.
He's not going to get that money.
Yeah. He's not going to get the money that he wants. And that's the difficult part. Like Milan, again, interested, but they don't have the funds to keep up with what he would want, or so that's the issue. The teams that are good enough to maybe pay those wages are not really in for his services. And then you have the teams that are interested in the player but don't have the funds to pay what he wants. So it's a difficult one to navigate, but I also think there's some big strikers, Jonathan David being one of them, and I don't know if it's an opportunity you can let slip as well. So I obviously, for personal reasons, being from Canada, and I want to see him play here and have success. But we also talked about some of the negatives maybe to his game that might not translate well as well. So it's an interesting one, but he is a top striker. He was a top striker in France. So I don't think you can.
It could also offer a different system too, right? Having two attackers up front with him and Kulu playing together. I would love to see that.
Yeah, and it's what we talked about with Koulibaly and Gyökeres. So I don't know why that can't be Koulibaly and David. But again, how you make that work to not give up so much in the back when you're already giving up as much as you are in the system we have will be an interesting one. But maybe Bremner's the answer to that. Maybe I don't know what it is.
That's what I was thinking too. This lineup looks so much different.
It really does.
Than the back there. Imagine that you have Gatti, Kalulu, and Brema as the back three.
Yeah,
that team looks a lot different.
Or Savona, Bremner, and Kalulu. You could play around with it a bit more. And yeah.
No, I agree. Like I said, the team looks a lot different at that point. So
yeah. Now there wasn't much other news. A couple other little random rumors.
Jadon Sancho.
And I'm gonna get into that in a second here. But the other one that I will highlight was what was it? Axel Disasi. He's a French defender. And
he plays for Chelsea.
Well, I think he played with Villa last year. 27 years old, defender. I haven't watched him too much. Don't know too much.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him either.
It shows here he played only 7 matches with Villa, so I don't know. He played at Stade Reims, and if he's played in the French league, so Kamoli may have some knowledge of him, but it's not a signing that stands out as a Juve signing or one that's particularly intriguing. But it's, I'll just throw it out there because it is a name that we have heard and we've seen. So just something to keep in the back as a Juve fan, that this is a name that's being thrown around as a defender that could possibly come in. So,
yeah.
But to your point, the biggest one is Jadon Sancho. And that is a big one. There was lots of rumors last year, specific with Sancho.
Yeah, it just never happened.
Yeah, and it sounded really close, but then he decided that he wanted to go play for Chelsea. Now, that didn't really work out for him, so it was another missed opportunity. Issue's always been with the individual wages, but if we want to put the wages aside for a second, what are your thoughts on the player type? I think it was a player we were both excited for last year, and part of
it
that
offers something different, right? And I think he would do.
different.
I think he would do well in the league as well. He's quick. He's quick with his feet. He has very good dribbling.
Yeah.
I would take him right now because of form-wise. I would take him as an option more than Nico Gonzalez, because at this point, what do we have to lose? Because Nico comes in and he doesn't really offer much at all.
Yeah,
he does not look good. He does not look good. He looks like a shell of himself. Confidence is very low.
Failed signing.
Yeah. Stop signing players from Fiore.
Yeah. Well, now the only thing I have, so player profile again, I agree there. I think there was too many players. I don't know. I don't understand his decision to go to Chelsea last year, if I'm being completely honest, just because there were so many players there as it was. So I don't know where he thought he was going to see.
I think maybe it was a spiteful thing,
perhaps
to United.
Yeah, and maybe a way. Hey, if I stay in England, then it's more of an opportunity that I'm closer to the national team, and call-ups are a lot easier. But obviously, his best years were with Dortmund. He went back again. They went to a Champions League final with him. And yeah, Man United's known to mess up some players. So I think from that side of it, you look at it and say, okay, there's some interesting profile there. But you're dealing with a massive wage. So we put that aside, but now it's got to come up on the table because it's not insignificant. And you're fighting over 30 million, whatever it is with Conceição.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring in Sancho, there's a real possibility you don't have the money to bring back Conceição. And so I'll pose that to you. Player for player, who would you rather have? And let's also add the value in after. Does that change what your decision would be? What would your pick be?
It'd be Chico, man. Chico,
I agree.
He's younger. He shows what he can do. He loves it here. We know. Yeah. And there hasn't been any past problems. Dips in performances here and there, but that's due to inconsistencies, which all players have, really. Yeah. I would go with Chico.
I'm the same. Just why you're fighting over this fee. He wants to be here. He's played well in moments. He's been inconsistent. I'll give that, but
he's also young too, and he still has time to grow.
Yeah, and I think the finances in bringing Sancho are going to be much bigger than and much bigger hurdles to overcome. So why not keep with Chico? He's younger, like you said, and I think from that side of it, just keep the guy who's been here and wants to be here. Why play this game, right?
Yeah, because you're gonna end up paying more for Sancho, right? Because you're loaning him in, and then say, okay, you end up doing a loan with obligation to buy, and then you end up paying him, and you got to pay that contract that's closer to what he's making right now. At least with Chico, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. I think don't quote me on this, I think he's making $6 million a year, but like it's way less than what Sancho's probably making, who's probably at the 12s. Yeah, and we don't need another $12 million a year contract right now.
No. And so I'm wondering, is the Sancho rumors heating up again to put pressure maybe on Porto to be like, hey, meet us somewhere on this negotiation?
Yeah.
Is it also Sancho's way to say, Barcelona, come get me? I've heard him talk about me want to go to Barcelona to play, wherever. Maybe it's just a ploy to get the sides they're negotiating with on the side to pony up. Mm-hmm. But it's something to keep an eye on again. And yeah, Chico's 22. Sancho's not old, 25. But I think there's raw talent.
I think Chico has a higher ceiling.
There's raw talent there. Yeah. And again, we've seen what he is wearing the black and white.
Yeah. And he loves it here.
There's an unknown to bringing in Sancho and what he brings. And so again, it's inconsistency, but you're dealing with a 22-year-old. So, but I've seen enough that gives me the confidence to say, stick with him, invest in him rather than investing in Sancho. So I think we're aligned on that. So that's a good one. But that's it for transfer news, really. When there is more, we'll obviously talk about it.
It's kind of slow right now.
It is slow. The defender there from Parma.
The window also opens this Tuesday, the 1st as well.
Yeah, so we'll definitely see some more chatter and some things heat up. But until then, probably won't hear more. Again, we're seeing some of these younger players that Parma, the young defender from Parma. Again, there hasn't been much talk there again. I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm hoping that we invest in some good young talent and not try to bring in these 27-year-old outcasts from Chelsea. But that's where I'd like to put my money, but maybe I'm just crazy. But outside of that, in the U.S., we also saw some familiar faces. So nothing really of news here, but, seeing Sandro and Danilo come into the locker room, giving the boys hugs, talking about it being family, kind of makes you think maybe Danilo could have stayed if Mota wasn't here as long as he was, and maybe with Tudor they could have worked something out. Sandro, I think the timing was, you had to get Sandro out of here.
Well, the writing was on the wall for years now, right? Especially with the fans being frustrated.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to Danilo quickly, and Lucatelli's comments about saying, Danilo has Juve in his blood, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him back here. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing the quote.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a possibility of coming back, or I think it's just something like he'll come back and he'll be doing something with, I don't know, Chiellini, or being a club ambassador? So
I feel the ship sailed. Again, we're talking about an management group that's come in and is focused on analytics. So to go backwards and bring back an older player who I don't think was very analytically not an analytic darling. I think he showed a lot of heart. He showed a lot of, maybe some of the other aspects that can't be measured. But I think from an analytic point of view, I think you see the numbers dipping. So I don't see it as the profile of a type of player that would come back under this management. So I don't see it happening, to be honest. But given, like, if you could tell me right now I could swap out Lloyd Kelly for him, I would. So
absolutely, buddy.
So that's where I'm at there. But yeah, I don't see it being a viable option or a realistic option. But who knows, right? Anything can happen in football. But yeah. So do you see it as a realistic possibility? I know it's something you want. You're a fan.
I have a soft spot for Danilo. I think I always have a soft spot for players that love the jersey, the badge on the front, more than the name on the back.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening as much as I would probably like for it to happen, but not maybe like as a players coach type of role, more of a voice, because I feel like this team lacks voice in the locker room.
Yeah.
But I think I could see him doing maybe something like Bazzagli, club ambassador, traveling, promoting, what Patrice Evra does sometimes, show up every now and then with a Juve jersey on. But I don't see much. I think he'll do something maybe down the line, but I think the playing days for the jersey is over.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't just old Juventini players. It was also former pretty big manager, and Arsene Wenger came to have dinner with the club as well. So he met up with them in the States. Obviously, some French connections, Koulibaly, Thuram, Kalulu. Just an interesting note there. Curious. Looked like he was having some pretty big conversations there with Tudor, maybe talking about some system. But it was just interesting to see that he was one of the people that they chose to have dinner with or lunch. I wasn't sure what it was, but curious how that kind of came along. But more just a note to pass along. So we're almost done here. It's the last kind of 2 points here. On this note here, Tether is... So we've talked about Tether. We've talked about them wanting to own more of a stake in Juve, them wanting to invest, them saying that, hey, we want to invest. We got the money here. It's just maybe the board doesn't want to take our money. Well, they are taking a bit more of their money. It was official that Tether increased their stake in Juve to 10.7%. So slowly... I'm not sure. That's actually a good point. I think it was much less, though. So we're up to 10.7%. Not insignificant. But the quote around it, once that was made official, was, we talked about having a voice in key decisions. So he's going forward with this plan, and he seems to be doing it in a slow but steady pace of, hey, I'm just going to keep slowly chipping away at this, not get too loud, because I don't think the board reacts well to that. This is Ferrari. This is, like they don't react well to people maybe coming out and speaking out too much. But he's clearly slowly getting into the ownership there, and it'll be something to watch, and it'll be something to keep an eye on if it's actually a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, and you can see Juve kind of just, they need the money, bending a little bit. We'll see what happens. Can't say too much, right? Because nothing has happened yet.
Yeah. And so that's basically for the Juve news. There was one last point. We did talk about the U21 Euros. The Italians looking really good in the group stage. Well, they did fall in the quarterfinals, but not without a valiant effort. So really played a great game. 2 red cards were given to the Italian team. They were down 2-1. Last free kick of injury time, they tie the game. Take it to extras, 2-2, 2 men down, playing their hearts out. They concede late in the second extra time there, and they lose 3-2 in extras to Germany in the quarters. So valiant effort. We talked again about the youth and coming up and being a big part of the Italian national team is having this youth program be good. Gattuso and Buffon were at the game cheering the team on. So it was nice to see a good showing. I don't necessarily think the result had to matter as long as the performance mattered in these, and I think they showed a very good case for themselves, the guys that did play.
Yeah, and especially with Buffon being at the game, maybe scouting for Gattuso, maybe a couple of those players get a call up. Who knows, right?
Yeah, and there was a kid there. He scored the goal in the game. I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm trying to... Who scored that nice goal?
The free kick at the end there?
No, so that one was, unfortunately, that I think was a... was that a Juve? Sorry, not a Juve player. That was an Inter player, I believe.
It was.
Yeah. Anyway, the name will come to me. I'll probably post about it, but it was a young kid who actually had ties to Canada. He was actually debating between the U.S., Canada, and Italy, but it seems like he's picked his path to Italy, and he seems like a pretty good player. He's playing in England right now, but so I'll get that name out there. But someone I did want to shout out, especially since I'm wearing the Canada gear today, but that was basically it. So good showing by them. A little light in the transfer news this week, but as Dom said, transfer market's opening up. It's just about to heat up. We thought the rumors were big before. It's just going to get even bigger. We got Real Madrid coming up on July 1st. Things are getting big for Juve. Let's see, can they turn around what started as a promising tournament, has now kind of whimpered off a little bit. Can they turn it around and actually make a good showing for themselves? I'm looking for a good result. I think you are as well. Just a good performance, sorry. I think if you still lose, but show that you played with the heart of a champion, a heart of Juve, I think there will be some success in that. So we'll watch out for that. We'll obviously keep you updated on the Jonathan David news. Anything else that is Juve related will come to you. So that was another episode of the Bianconeri Bros. We kept it down to just under a minute here if we close off in the next minute. So from us tonight, I think that is it. So good night, Juventini, and ciao. Look at that. That's a nice card.
Follow us.